Welcome to the Hollywood Scholar. I'm Jed Morgan, and the initial review embargo for critics has been lifted for The Witcher Blood Origin, and these reviews are far more mixed than I initially would have expected. Most of the time, the critics just go over themselves, fall over themselves to just praise things incessantly from these big studios, but this response is very mixed. Some people praising it to quite a degree, some people criticizing it but still giving it mediocre scores, but none of them give it a bad score. These are the same people that were giving Rings of Power episodes 9 out of 10s. So by comparison, how bad is the Rings of Power compared to The Witcher Blood Origin? With them giving that 9 and them giving these lower scores. Just, I know they praise things, put everything up towards the positive way more than the majority of people would. So how much farther, how much worse can Blood Origin truly be than Rings of Power? I personally think they're going to be pretty equivalent in value, saying not really any at all, but will Blood Origin really be that bad? I just can't wait to see how bad it will truly be, if it is indeed worse than Rings of Power, as these people seem to believe it is. But I just want to go through a few of these. This is from the CBR's review. Witcher Blood Origin's talented cast is let down by mediocre story. Interesting. Netflix's Blood Origin tries to imagine the continent as we've never seen it before, but it forgets the importance of world building. And that is the fundamental nature of this show. World building should be at the center of it because it is a prequel series based on lore, not based on an actual story. So world building should indeed be the very center of it. This CBR one, out of the ones that I picked, is the one that I agree with the most. They are way too generous with it still, as doesn't surprise anyone, but I do agree with them to a certain extent. And coming down here, they say, in the context of the larger conversation surrounding Netflix's The Witcher, the prequel series is not going to help improve the franchise's current reputation. That's good, because, yeah, its reputation is in the dumpster currently with how they treated Henry Cavill and how abysmally they bastardized the lore in Season 2. From the premise alone, the diehards of the works and the video games might find themselves irritated because it strays so far from the source material without adding anything truly exciting to the rich mythos. These same people were saying Rings of Power didn't diverge from the source material, but they're saying this diverges from it heavily. They're admitting it this time. So is it really that bad, or are they not just getting paid by Amazon? And I'll let you guys decide on those ones. But they're admitting that it goes away from the source material and doesn't provide anything good to replace it. This might actually be far worse than I initially predicted because of how these reviews are set up. Maybe Witcher Blood Origin is worse than even I am predicting. That's bad when you're lowering my expectations. If you go under my expectations for this show, you've got a real travesty on your hands. Instead of trying to present the viewers with a world of complex, exotic, and exciting, as its setting promises to be, The Witcher Blood Origin instead throws a small party of elven characters at viewers, with occasionally interesting gimmicks, but little more below the depth. So they're all superficial characters, and that's something we've seen from Hollywood a lot in recent years. It's just superficiality is the name of the game. There's nothing deep in character development anymore. No one is more than their generic physical attributes, such as race in several instances, and how focused the show is on diversity. That makes sense. They use diversity and inclusion to weaponize against the fans as a protection against lazy writing criticism. That's what Triss from the original series is. She was race swapped, so they don't have to worry about her. It seems like this is that as a television show, just so much diversity so that they can protect themselves against the lazy writing criticism. But maybe things are changing because CBR is still criticizing the writing nonetheless. None of the three main characters, these three right above them in that image, who have appeared prominently in the marketing material, have any real sense of development. They change because characters say they have changed. Tell, don't show is the name of the game at Netflix as well, and just all these studios in general. There's no actual character development. You're just told things. You're told to like this person. And their stories are told through a deluge of expositional dialogue. God, I hate exposition when it's done poorly. In fact, one of the 4 episodes seems entirely dedicated to exposition. That is exactly what I was expecting as well, because The Rings of Power was rife with exposition as well. Exposition is a lazy man's tool for world building. There are ways to do exposition well. Talking about Die Hard last week on Saturday Night Drive-In, there are ways to do exposition in a talented way, such as when Hans Gruber tells the story of the Japanese businessman's life story. That is telling something about character. Hans' portrayal of it is telling something about his character. There are ways to multifaceted expositional deliveries. It doesn't sound like Blood Origin is doing that at all. No amount of charisma from the actors can make the cliche-filled script truly work. They are tearing into it by their standards. They are really eviscerating this. Over the last year, audience have been teased with the cataclysmic event known as the Conjunction of the Spheres and the world's first Witcher. But all that promised story is really contained in the final episode. So not only are they condensing two of the most important events in the Witcher history that take place originally across 1,000-year difference into a single month, now it's only in the final episode. So they're having the first Witcher and the Conjunction take place at exactly the same time with little prelude. These events should be separated by over 1,000 years of time. This cannot work. Witchers are exclusively humans. How are you making the first Witcher when there aren't any humans on the continent until after the Conjunction, and no intelligent, actually civilized humans until the first landing in 750s, almost 1,000 years after this as well? What is going on with the lore? They are not respecting the lore. They don't understand it. As Declan Devarro recently announced, he doesn't actually even know that there is lore to adapt. Check out my previous video on that. All in all, The Witcher Blood Origin is a disappointing addition to a budding franchise caught in a seemingly precarious situation. The limited series deviates from the source material and is unable to offer much of substance to justify its existence, despite the best effort of a talented cast. I don't think many of them are talented, besides Michelle Yeoh. She's great, but besides that. For those who aren't already loving what Netflix has to offer, Blood Origin will only offer frustration as its wasted potential. They don't actually give it a number score, but man, they tore it apart by CBR standards. If they're tearing it apart and they shill for everything, shill BR. There's a reason I call them that. How bad can this really be? All these reviews are making me think maybe this is a lot worse. And then we've got IGN. Theirs, I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail on, but they give it a 7 out of 10. The same people who gave The Rings of Power, the worst episode of Rings of Power, a 9 out of 10. Just kind of a nice compare and contrast, but this interesting little blurb that they do with it kind of pisses me off a little bit. The Blood Origin proves that there is plenty of narrative meat left on the bone. Yes, of course there's plenty of meat, and it's not left on a bone. You're acting like it's hardly there. No, there's plenty of lore to adapt a series off of. Don't insult the books by setting up the show like this. It's just really disingenuous. And they don't even use what meat is left on the bone. They throw all of the lore out. So this is really disingenuous. Imaginative universe with dynamic heroes and action-packed story. So yeah, they still say it's good. 7 out of 10 is a massively high score. For me, I know people weigh things differently, and 7 isn't as good to most people as it is to me, but still, this is way too high a score considering the stuff that they say in this article. There is a little bit of shilling going on in this article. The IG one, it just says, oh, it's Magnificent 7. There's 7 main characters, so it's like Magnificent 7, so it's good. That's basically what this article is, but they still give it a 7 out of 10. And then there's places like Polygon. Polygon's isn't great either. The Witcher Blood Origin isn't a great sign for a post-Henry Cavill future. And yeah, they make some great points in here to the level that these sites are capable of. The Witcher Blood Origin is a worst-case scenario, a profoundly messy and unappealing series that casts doubt on the world of The Witcher's potential in a post-Cavill era. And they don't like it either. They still probably give it around the same score as IGN or CBR. Maybe 6 out of 10. They don't actually give it a number. But there's some legitimate criticism here, and that surprises me coming from these sites that don't give legitimate criticism to things like Rings of Power or the MCU. Once backstory gets filled in, it feels sloppy and late, so removed from the through line of their narrative as it reveals how little any of the details actually matter to the show. More exposition that doesn't actually apply to anything. What is the difference between an elf and a human in The Witcher? Magic, strength, ears. Within the Blood Origin, it seems to be nothing. And that is an important thing for the lore. For those of you who watched my initial lore video, the elves pre and post conjunction need to be starkly different. I mean, evolutionary gradually so, but before the conjunction, they should be Tolkienian, they should be magical, they should be ethereal, they should be likened to angels. And if there's no difference to them pre-conjunction, they don't have any adaptation integrity whatsoever. That is probably the most important thing they had to get right, because without pre-conjunction elves being magical and ethereal, the decisions of the Ainel, the Wild Hunt, King Oberon, Aroden, and the creation of Laura Dern, the Elder Blood, eventually leading to Ciri, none of that will make sense unless the pre-conjunction elves are magical. They just confirm there that the most important piece of lore was thrown out, just with everything else. And the digital spy, kind of on the same lines, really needs a Henry Cavill type figure to keep things together, well on line with the rest of these. CNET, the Witcher prequel series Blood Origin, has one stellar episode, and that's it. really doesn't go into detail besides, oh yeah, it has one good episode. And a big thing with a lot of these reviews is they say that it needed more time to breathe. And originally there were going to be 6 episodes to the series, but they brought it down to 4. So a lot of them were saying, hey, leave it at 6. You needed more time to breathe. I don't necessarily agree with that, but I haven't seen it yet. Maybe it did need to breathe a little bit more. I just don't want to watch any more of these. And we've got CNET here as well. The Witcher Blood Origin, too many characters, not enough time. This one also goes into it needs more episodes, and it needs a Henry Cavill figure to center around the show around, even though the main Witcher show does not center around him at all. He is not the main character, but it doesn't have a strong character to have everything revolve around, they're saying. So even Michelle Yao apparently isn't that strong, and yeah, she definitely isn't. They're all criticizing her, which is an interesting thing. This entire franchise is broken. There's no adaptation integrity, and people are calling them out for it. There are some honest reviews coming through it, and I just can't wait to see how bad this show truly is when it comes out on Christmas Day. God, what a Christmas day that's gonna be. And these have only made me worried more about this series because they're usually not negative. If they're being this negative, maybe it is that abysmally bad and may be worse than Rings of Power, but we'll have to wait and see if that is the case in the end. But anyway, that's all I have for today. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Anon.